Okay, and good afternoon, everybody. Today is Saturday, the 28th of August, and I'm going to be finishing up the section on the Serpent Rouge. For those who have not seen the first four installments, it's one part, but I mean the first four sections of the Serpent Rouge, you can go over to on the link on freevoice. That will be below, so I did the first four there. And I'll do the final 9 segments here. Again, for a reminder, what we have is a document that was left in the Paris Bibliothèque in the late 1960s related to the Rennes-le-Château in southern France mystery. It is very odd alchemic and, as we will see, language that relates directly to the story of southern France and to many fairy tales and to many very just unique symbolic elements to it. And we'll present that as we go along. Partially because I promised I would finish this series with you. I said when I started the Southern France stuff and I had my giant pile of notes, I promised I would finish this section with you. Is going through the Serpent Rouge really extremely valuable to your personal life right now? I don't know. I mean, you never know when digging through obvious symbolic and alchemic material how important or useful translating the symbols are. Because first you have to know, did you translate them correctly? Did you get the message correctly? I mean, I don't know. I'm just presenting what I can see from them and giving you something that's quite possibly helpful. Maybe it's not. But I did want to finish the series, and I will live up to my commitment. We'll have one more after this. That would be a final overview of southern France and linking it as well to some elements of the New Testament and some Gnostic scriptures. So that'll be the first, but we'll finish the Serpent Rouge today. At the end of this video, I will give you a update on some things in my personal situation and some things that are going on here. No need to go into that at the beginning. If you want to stick around at the end, you can hear that as well. So, Serpent Rouge document, for reminder, 1967, put in the Paris Bibliothèque, divided into 13 poetic segments, each listed with one of the zodiac, including an extra 13th, the Ophiuchus or the serpent. And of course, the name of the document, the Serpent Rouge, is the red serpent, and we will get to the red serpent when we hit number 12, Sagittarius. So let us continue from where we left off. We're now in number 5, Gemini. First again, 2 of the 3 translations that I have, so you can hear what we're dealing with. Reassemble the scattered stones, and working with square and compass, put them back in order. Find the line of the meridian in going from east to west, and then looking from south to north, and finally in all directions, to find the looked-for solution. Station yourself in front of the 14 stones, making a cross. The circle is the ring and crown, and the crown forms the diadem of the queen of the castle. Another one. To reassemble the scattered stones, work with a square and compass to put them back in regular order. Look for the line of the meridian in going from east to the west, then looking from the south to the north. Finally, in all directions to obtain the desired solution, stopping in front of the 14 stones marked with a cross. The circle being the ring, in this coil of the snake, and the crown, and to him the diadem of the queen of the castle. Okay. Let's look into this one a little bit further. So we have the scattered stones that have been talked about in the previous section in number 4 in Taurus. And there have been, I believe there have been 64, right? 64 scattered stones. We had talked a lot about the cube, and then some really interesting comments came of the combination of the cube and its geometric shapes, and how the 64 fits into the cube and fits into various other geometric shapes. So we're talking about, so the scattered stones have this geometric connection based on what was in the previous one before this, and it says work with the square and the compass. So obviously that's a in this case a Masonic term. Now whether it's trying to put it specifically into Freemasonic connection in some point, this document, or it's trying to just piece together that it's something, it's using some sort of, we'll call it occult, meaning hidden, some sort of hidden knowledge in order to overturn and understand what the scattered stones and what the geometric patterns and the geometric shapes mean. And then it wants you to put them back in order. Put them back in order. So again, you're talking about like this dismemberment. You can also think of it as, again, the dismemberment of Osiris, right? Or the dismemberment of the shaman, where you are physically, you are symbolically ripped apart physically. So all of the parts, all of the pieces of your being are disassembled, cleansed and purified, and then brought back together. So when the shaman re-enters the world after this dismemberment experience, every single individual piece of them has been cleansed and renewed. Oh, by the way, sorry, as I'm doing that part of it, I forgot also on freevoice, I'll put the link below as well. I just had a video up on basic Qi Gong, which I think can be very valuable in this current time that we're living. So there's also the basic first steps of how to do standing, which is just standing Qigong, which is not even movement Qigong. I thought I should mention that before I forget to. If I don't mention it now, I'll forget it. And then it wants you to go from east to west and then looking from south to north for the line of the meridian. Now, these meridian lines come a lot in play. I only touched on them in one of the previous videos. Is this idea of the rose line, or this idea of the central meridian, right? The meridian that's running through, whether it be downtown Paris, whether it's running through St Sulpice or some of these other churches and monuments in Paris, running all the way through southern France and moving, in fact, very close to the famous tomb in Arc. So this rose line, or this sort of centralized meridian line, is very important in the mystery. But that's a north-south line. All the meridians that we deal with are north-south. But here it wants you to look for the line of the meridian going east to west and then the south to the north. So it's also discussing lines of latitude then. Some sort of, not necessarily line of latitude, but you know what I mean? Something that's running east to west, or it would be circular around the globe as well. And so if you're looking for an east, a piece of tape in my hand. If you're looking for the east-west meridian and the north-south, then you must be looking for a cross, for a point where two different meridians actually cross. And then it says, you know, stop in front of the, stop in front of the 14 stones marked with a cross. So we just described using the meridians to find a point of a cross, and now we're talking the 14 stones now that are marked with a cross. Now, are those 14 stones, the 14 stations of the cross that are existing actually in Rennes-le-Château Church, for example? Is it referring something to the very strange set of the stations of the cross? Does it relate, for example, to the 14 stations of the cross, something that was similar at La Bayou? And when I talked about the priest there, the priest of the Carroll estate, what was his name? The one who had his stuff dynamited. Anyway, that priest, are they talking about going to where he had put these stations of the cross outside in actual, giant stone structures? Is it, as some people are suggesting, that there was originally a labyrinth on the ground around the Rennes-le-Château area? I mean, it might be huge. It might run all the way from Rennes-le-Bain or something all the way to Rennes-le-Château. It might be like a massive labyrinth on the ground. And that different parts of it are marked as well with 14 stations of the cross. So you're actually walking the journey of Jesus in the labyrinth as you go through the 14 stations listed on the ground. I have no idea exactly what it means in front of the 14 stones making a cross, but probably somehow linking to these 14 stations is a likely suggestion. Then we have the circle is the ring and crown. The circle is the ring and the crown. Now, again, in one of these translations, the one by W and H, who are they again? W and H are I've lost the first section, but I think it's William Henry. I can't remember who that translation was, but they put a brackets after ring, the circle being the ring / coil of the snake. So the other ones don't have that. They just have they've just translated it as direct as it can from because the word snake I don't think appears in the French. It's le cercle étend le anneau et couronne. So I think the direct translation is the circle being the ring and the crown. But if someone wants to bring the ring, bringing in the Ouroboros, so bringing in this idea of, because the Ouroboros represents time, right? Represents the unending nature of time, the circular nature of time, the serpent biting its tail. We also then add this idea, if you're adding the serpent in with the ring and the crown, that also, of course, adds to the idea of the pharaonic headdress of ancient Egypt, which will have a crown and will have the cobra serpent, right, coming out of the third eye to represent the Kundalini process coming through the third eye. This section finishes with the diadem of the queen of the castle. So it's very important, the queen of the castle. Now, queen, of course, is written as Reine, R-E-I-N-E. My French sucks, as it over the years it's gotten worse. Reine, right? Reine or Reine. So it's very close to the word for like Rennes le Chateau. And Rennes is supposed to mean, Rennes in this case, Rennes le Chateau means place, right? That's the word. But here, a very similar word means queen. And we will dig into two sections. It goes into this queen and who it wants you to know the queen is. So first of all, if there is a crown, the crown is not being worn by some male, some pharaonic figure of Egypt. It's being worn by a queen. The queen, of course, just naturally would have to be an Isis figure, right? Would have to be somehow linked to Isis, which would link to the Magdalene, as we'll see is going to happen. And of the castle. So it's very important. It's the queen of the castle, not just of the queen of the castle. So what is the castle, or castel, as it's written in the French version? What is the castle that they want specifically referring to? It just says castle. We go to number 6, which is Gemini. The mosaic tiles of this sacred place are alternately black and white, and Jesus, like Asmodeus, regards their alignments. My view seems incapable of seeing the summit where dwells hidden the marvelous beauty. Not being Hercules with magical powers, how can I solve the mysterious symbols engraved by witnesses of the past? However, in the sanctuary is the font, the fountain of love, for those who believe, reminding us of these words, by this sign you will conquer him. The stones of the mosaic paving of the sacred place could be alternately black or white, and Jesus like Asmodeus, observing their alignment. My view seems incapable of seeing the summit, where the marvelous sleeping one remains hidden. Not being Hercules with magical power, decode the mysterious symbols carved by the observers of the past. In the sanctuary, however, the stoop, the fountain of love of the believers, reminds us by these words, by this sign you shall conquer. Okay, very important. And this is all, for those who've been following along with this series, you will know that this section is relating directly to the church at Rennes le Chateau. We have the mosaic tiles of the sacred place alternately black and white, and that is the checkerboard floor that you will find immediately upon the entrance to Rennes le Chateau Church. We know it's Rennes le Chateau Church because right away it's saying, and like Jesus and Asmodeus, observe their alignments. And we have the Jesus statue and what's called the devil statue, but we don't know really what that statue is, right? The two key statues that seem to be bent in a particular way, moving towards the black and white checkerboard floor as if they're playing a game of chess or checkers against each other, right? Remember, the Jesus statue has John the Baptist standing above him with the shell as if he's giving a water baptism. Over top of what we'll call the devil statue has the water stoop with the four angels surrounding it, and it has that, and it also has the same wording, by this sign you will conquer him, and there's a cross being made by the angels, the four angels, in the way that they are figured. And of course, I talked more about these two statues and the stoops and the thing I did on Rennes-le-Château, maybe part 2 or part 3, when I did the church. So we know this section is speaking very much about that, and just the entrance. It's speaking about the entrance part of the church specifically, and it's wanting to bring attention to the two statues, to the floor, and then it's saying, my view, right? It seems I seem incapable of seeing the summit of the secret place of the sleeping beauty. Okay, so we've got our first reference, our next reference again to the story of Sleeping Beauty, right? The famous fairy tale. And Sleeping Beauty is a really important part, it seems, of the Rennes-le-Château mystery, or at least became part of the Rennes-le-Château mystery. The people who took this over in the 1960s seemed to want to make sure that that tale was presented quite strongly. And so we have to look into Sleeping Beauty again very, very carefully as to, it seems very simplistic on the surface. I've read it myself. I've read various versions of it. and there must be a more complete version. I get the sense that the Sleeping Beauties, even the Grimm's tale, when Grimm's is presenting Sleeping Beauty, I still get the sense we're getting like half the tale, that there's a much longer, more complete version of it, that something that we have now is missing. That's really, really important for the understanding, and I wouldn't doubt it involves, like I say, some sort of sexual magic, some sort of use of the connection of the masculine and the feminine, the male and the female, to create sort of an explosive energy and to awaken the sleeping beauty, to awaken the sleeping feminine in this case. But now it says, not being Hercules with magical power. So this links us to two things again. It's linking us to Hercules. It's linking us to the myth of his 12 labors. Hercules had to go the hero. Hercules is Horus, the hero, Heru. In Greek form, who does the 12 labors in order to, in a sense, overcome his mortal ways and become what you might say godlike or totally within knowledge or the self, right? So we're talking about challenge and work and a journey. And just before, we had been presenting the possibility of some type of journey, perhaps a labyrinth, dealing with the 14 stones of a cross. And now it wants to be Hercules. Hercules, also by mentioning Hercules, we're also again relinking again to the idea of the famous tomb of Hercules, which is very close to the tomb of Christian Rosenkreuz, of early Rosicrucian teaching. This idea of this sacred hidden place that's full of some type of treasure if you manage to uncover it. And many have believed that this tomb of Hercules / Rosenkreuz / Jesus / whoever you want to feel this tomb might be real in the physical realm is somewhere in the southern France area. And so it's not just referring to a myth here. It might actually be referring to a real place. But not being Hercules with magical powers, that's important, is with magical powers. How can I solve the mysterious symbols engraved by the witnesses of the past? So I love this. How can I decode the mysterious symbols by the witnesses of the past? Now, by witnesses of the past, how long ago in the past? 50 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years? There's no date, just witnesses of the past, those who witnessed the past. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to mean now witness. The way it's written, witnesses of the past doesn't necessarily mean people who lived in the past. It's saying by witnesses of the past. So if somebody had a time viewing machine, if I could turn on my laptop and I could go back 2,000 years and watch something being built in ancient Egypt, and I describe it, I would be a witness of the past. I wouldn't have been from the past. So the wording is really important. Witnesses of the past. So that could mean somebody the day before they wrote this could have, if they saw the past, would be classified as a witness of the past. I'm just giving the language very carefully. How can I solve the mysterious symbols engraved? Mysterious symbols engraved. And it's the same in all of the writings. It's mysterious symbols engraved or carved. So first we have mysterious symbols. So if it's mysterious symbols, we know we're not talking about a regular language, because a language is, whether it's French or Latin or whatever, it can be read and they're not mysterious. It's words, right? So we're saying by symbols. So what are we talking about? Are we talking about we're talking about some type of hieroglyphic marking, some type of alchemic marking, some type of again symbolic language, or some type of symbolic thing, and they're engraved. So where are they engraved? That's the next question. It's not telling us. But then it all of a sudden switches us to, however, in the sanctuary, so the church of Rennes-le-Château is being claimed to be a sanctuary, very important, is the font, the fountain of love for those who believe. And obviously this fountain must be, because we're going to see that it's conquered, reminding us by the words, by this sign you will conquer. It's obviously the fountain is the water stoop, the water font, by the devil Asmodeus statue. That somehow this is being called the fountain of love. So again, the image of this devil creature is already in this document, is indicating to you you're being fooled if you think that's what it is. It's something else completely, and it's carrying the fountain of love and the four angels. By this sign you will conquer. So it's telling us again that there's a magical element, that there's something, not just with Hercules, but also with the Sleeping Beauty. All of this just in that early part of Rennes-le-Château Church, as if it's asking you to look into it deeper. How am I doing here? How long have I got? 20 minutes. Wow. Number 7, and this is the middle section. We have 13 pieces. So this is the middle section. This is the one that divides the two sixes together. So this is an important, very important piece of the document because it's in the middle. It's very short. This is in Leo. I am aware of the scent of the perfume, which impregnates the sepulchre of the one I must release. Long ago her name was Isis, queen of the benevolent springs. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Others knew her as Magdalene, with the celebrated vase full of healing balm. The initiates know her to be Notre Dame de Crosses. The scent of the perfume of her I wish to liberate mounts upward toward me. Long ago she was named Isis, queen of the benevolent spring. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will comfort you. Others knew her as Magdalene, with the celebrated vase of healing balm. The initiates knew her true name, Our Lady of the Crosses, Notre Dame de Crosses. So it's indicating now, this middle section, that this entire document, in one sense, is about the reawakening of the Sleeping Beauty, and the Sleeping Beauty is Isis, the queen, because it's very clear. Isis, queen, right there. Isis, queen of the benevolent springs. So we now know that somehow this document is about awakening Isis, and also important, this very section indicates others knew her as Magdalene. So Mary Magdalene is Isis when you understand the New Testament. There's no difference between Isis and the Magdalene. That's who's being referred to. And when you see Notre Dame de Crosses, you're dealing with the Magdalene, you're dealing with Isis. So all of these churches, all of these Gothic cathedrals that claim to have been built for Mary the Mother, Virgin Mary, are being really built for Mary Magdalene / Isis, right? And of course, again, if you start thinking, there's only one Mary in the text. Mary Magdalene is one form of the feminine form, and Mary the Mother is the masculine side of the feminine, the mother. It's the same. If you think of it as the same individual, there's not two separate people. You have to switch it around, that the story of Mary Magdalene comes first before the story of the Virgin Mary, so to speak, that the Virgin Mary is the Magdalene giving birth to whatever her and Jesus have coupled and created, whether it's a real physical creature or it's something magical, something mystical. We don't need to go too much more into that. We'll go to 8. Virgo, much longer one. I was like the shepherds in front of the famous painter Poussin, confused in front of the enigma, et in Arcadia ego. The voice of the blood would it show me the image of an ancestral past? Yes, the light of the genius crossed my mind. I saw again. I understood. I knew now this fabulous secret, and marvelous, when from the leaps of the four horsemen, the shoes of one horse had left 4 imprints on the rock. Here is the sign which Delacroix had given in one of his 3 pictures from the Chapel of Angels. Here is the 7th sentence which a hand had traced: "Deliver me from the mire, so that I do not stay there sinking. 2 times is, embalmer and embalmed, miraculous vase of the eternal White Lady of Legends." I am like the celebrated painter Poussin. So that's interesting, because Van Buren's, yeah, so she doesn't put the shepherds in. So the start of the second one I have is, I was like the shepherds of the celebrated painter Poussin, puzzled by the enigma of Et in Arcadia ego. Then the third translation has, I am like the celebrated painter Poussin, puzzled by the enigma Et in Arcadia ego. I'm looking here. I think the word shepherds are actually, the word j'étais comme les bergers du célèbre peintre Poussin. So I think bergers are shepherds, right? So the second, this other translation is missing shepherds. So we'll go to the other one. I was like the shepherds of the celebrated painter Poussin, puzzled by the enigma Et in Arcadia ego. Would the voice of the blood form an image of our ancestral past? Yes, a light of inspiration floods my mind. Now I understand. I know the fabulous secret. And what is more amazing is that when the 4 knights moved, one of the horses left 4 hoofprints on the rock. Here is the sign which Delacroix had given in one of his 3 paintings in the Chapel of Angels. There is the 7th sentence which a hand has traced: "Delivered me out of the mire and let me not sink." 2 times is, embalming and embalmed, miraculous vessel of the eternal White Lady of Legends. So it's important. I was like the shepherds of the celebrated painter Poussin, puzzled by the enigma of Et in Arcadia ego. So we know what painting is being referred to, or at least we know one of the 2 paintings it's being referred to. We don't know if it's the Louvre painting or the one that's in the England painting, but we know it's one of these Et in Arcadia ego paintings done by Poussin, that they're saying they are the shepherds. The person saying, I was like the shepherd understanding Et in Arcadia ego. Would the voice of the blood show me the image of an ancestral past? So again, we're right back 2 ones before this, right? When we go back to Cancer, and we're reading about how does one solve the mysterious symbols engraved by the witnesses of the past? And now all of a sudden here they're saying now the voice of blood will give an image of the ancestral past. So again, something about being able to see the past, being able to see clearly what it is you're trying to understand. So it's not whatever's coming is not just an intellectual idea or a theory or a concept. This understanding of something ancient is because it was witnessed. It was actually seen directly. And it says, I now know the fabulous secret. So it doesn't say what the secret is, just the secret. And then when leaps the 4 horsemen. So who are the 4 horsemen? Normally one would think it could be relating to the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right? From the section of the New Testament. The 4 horsemen, though, could also potentially be relating to somehow the 4 elements, or the four directions, or the way of understanding material reality. And again, the shoes of one horse had left 4 imprints on the rock. So again, we've got this idea of 4 again, the 4 and the 4. So is it the horsemen of the apocalypse, or is it something related to, in the native direction, like the four directions, the 4 elements, the 4, I don't know. And here's the sign by which Delacroix had given in one of his 3 pictures from the Chapel of Angels. So Delacroix is the famous painter who has paintings in St Sulpice, and St Sulpice is being called here the Chapel of Angels. I don't know how many have actually been to St Sulpice. I've been to Sulpice 3 or 4 times, I think. I chose when I went with my wife a few years ago to stay in a hotel very close to Sulpice in that part of Paris. So every morning, no matter where I would go, either on the way to somewhere or the way back to the hotel, I would stop in Sulpice every day and sort of look through another section of it very, very carefully. So I've looked at the Delacroix paintings um, very closely, and they are. I'm just going to pull up my personal pictures of them. Where's my trip to Paris? Because Sulpice is again, I don't know, it has a very cold kind of, I don't mean cold like bad. It was very cold, very energetic. So we have one of the Delacroix paintings. I'm looking at it now, which is it's like an angel battling, an angel sort of battling. I'd have to get the full detail on this, but I'm just looking at the images now of the Delacroix paintings. There's one here that has a horse in it, trampling. The horse is trampling a man, a soldier laying on the ground, with. It's like there's a cape. I'm going to say it's a lot of red. It gives the impression of blood. And the horse is stepping right on his chest. And then there are. So I don't think that's really it. So we have to go through and look at the Delacroix images specifically. There's also this one of Jesus coming out of the tomb. That's there. It's right beside where an epitaph to Jean Ollier is. Sorry, I didn't get much out of that. But anyway, Delacroix and St Sulpice, if you want to understand number 8. It has the line, "Deliver me out of the mire and let me not sink," which we find often again in the Rennes-le-Château mystery. And this one ends with 2 times IS, and 2 times IS is Isis. So once again, here comes Isis coming back, embalming and embalmed. So is this relating somehow again to mummification and to eternal life, these ideas of eternal life? Miraculous vessel of the eternal white lady of legends. And now we go back to the balm of which has always been considered the vessel that Mary Magdalene holds, and that you will always generally see when, like for example, the image on the altar of Rennes-le-Château with the Magdalene in the cave, and has the embalming vase there, right? And so we're again at the same time re-getting this understanding that Isis, Magdalene, White Lady, Notre Dame, it's the same force. It's the same feminine thing. It is Isis represented over and over again. Number 9, Libra. Started in the shadows, my journey could only be completed in light. At the window of the ruined house, I gazed across the trees, stripped by autumn to the summit of the mountain. The cross of Crete stood under the midday sun. It was the 14th and biggest of all, with its 35 centimeters. Here I am therefore on my horse ride, on the divine steed crossing the abyss. I began my journey in shadows and completed it in the light. At the window of the ruined house, I look across the trees denuded by autumn to the summit of the mountain. The cross stood out from the crest under the midday sun. It was the 14th and largest of all, with 35 centimeters. Here then am I at my knight's tower, on the divine steed spanning the abyss. So I don't want to go. There's potentially a lot here. I don't want to go into too detailed because I want to get to some of the ones that are coming up. But again, we've got the journey beginning in shadows and ending in light, which is the alchemic journey, beginning in Negretto and finishing in the light of the Rubetto, right, becoming the golden light. At the window of the ruined house, I look across the trees, stripped by autumn at the summit of the mountain. So this could be related to either a painting of Delacroix or even a painting of Poussin. And one of his paintings, Poussin had 4 paintings, right? It was spring, summer, autumn, and winter, I believe, right? So there might be something in the autumn picture. I don't have it immediately off my computer. I'm not hooked to the internet. And then it talks about a cross, right? A cross, the 14th cross being 35 centimeters. So why do they want the number 35 specifically into this document? 35 is one sense, it's an odd number. I mean, if you add the 3 and the 5, you get 8. Okay, 8 being a hermetic, being the number of Hermes, being the number of Thoth. Here then is my Knight's Tower. Here then in the Knight's Tower, on the divine horse, spanning the abyss. Very difficult to dig through that one, right? We've got a Knight's Tower. Which tower are we talking about? Divine horse, which is indicating again some sort of knightly position, some sort of elevated position, spanning the abyss. And the abyss is, of course, again, one of the problems with something like this, with anytime you get symbolic documents like this, with symbolic language, and it's challenging, because generally what you're going to find more as you decipher it is you're going to find it's like a Rorschach, right? It's going to tell you more about yourself than it's really going to tell you about necessarily the document, because you can only decode and figure things out to the level of you've decoded and figured things out in your life. So you're always going to be limited by what you can see and what you can't see. That's why like 20 people working on this document together would have a much better chance of figuring it out, because you have 20 different opinions, 20 different eyes, 20 different sets of experiences. So it's always going to tell you, I can give you my answer of what I think an abyss is and what I think an abyss represents metaphorically, but that may have nothing to do with the creator of this document and what this idea of an abyss meant to them. So you've always got this challenge of some of the symbols that will be used will be somewhat universal, and you can kind of figure out what they probably mean, and others are going to have meaning to the person or persons who created it. And unless you can be inside their mind, you're just taking a guess based on what you know and what you think. And that's one of the reasons why symbolic language, while useful in that it will sneak through the ages, because no one's going to, because it's not presented open, stuff isn't presented openly, it's not going to be destroyed. It's also, once you get it, you're stuck with deciphering it with your own box of tools, and depending how good your box is going to depend how much of any document you're going to be able to figure out. Like, I'm sure a lot of you are listening to me so far and you're saying, how do you not see this? How do you not see this? How do you not see this? And others say, yeah, I wouldn't have seen that. I wouldn't have seen that. So it's all this idea of, once you get a symbolic document, any kind of alchemic document, any kind of a hieroglyphic text, it's telling you as much about you and what you know as the document itself. Let's go to number 10. Here is a celestial vision for one who follows the 4 works of M. Signal around the line of the meridian, even at the heart of the sanctuary, from where radiates the source of brotherly love. I turn about on myself, casting a look of the rose of P and that of S, and then from the S to P, and the spiral in my mind becomes a monstrous octopus expelling its ink. The shadows absorb the light. I become giddy. I carry my hand to my mouth, instinctively, perhaps like Olier in his coffin. Damnation, I know the truth. He is past. But he is also in doing good, and did he of the flowery tomb. But how many have pillaged the house, leaving only embalmed corpses and numbers of metal things as they could not carry? What strange mystery is concealed in the new temple of Solomon, built by the children of St. Vincent? Okay, so here's a pretty massive section here. I'm only going to read this once. But this is so we felt like a couple of these before, that the painter had said, the person said, I know the fabulous secret, and what is more amazing, so it's like, it's already sounding like the person is saying they know everything, and now here it comes to this document or this section, and they become confused again. So it's almost like you go on your path for a while and you have revelations. And of course, when you get the revelation, you think you've got it all. You think you've seen everything. But if you keep going a little further, you realize, oh boy. And sometimes the past revelation will get totally chopped off, and the new revelation swarms you with completely new stuff that you weren't expecting. There's very much, so we're going with the works of Signal. That's linking back to St Sulpice. Again, the line of the meridian. That's linking to St Sulpice because Sulpice is very important for the meridian line that runs through it. We have the casting a look at the rows of P, the rows of P, and to that of S, and then from the S to the P. And the spiral in my mind becomes a monstrous octopus expelling its ink. So we're getting this idea of S and P. We're getting this idea of spiral, of movement, of again the labyrinth. They're in the labyrinth. And the spiral becomes a monstrous octopus expelling its ink. So remember, we have the PS, which is on the supposed parchments, which is on the supposed tombstones of Marie de Negra. We've got what people say is an octopus or a spider. I think it's an octopus. So now we're linking to the tombstone, probably the Marie de Negra in here. And then all of a sudden becomes this, it's like this revelation. The shadows absorb the light. So we just talked about how we've gotten out of the shadows and into the light, right? What you think the journey is about, leaving the shadows and into the light. That's the entrance into the labyrinth. But now if you're saying the shadows absorb the light, what is happening, in my personal opinion, they're walking out of the labyrinth. You have to walk in, as I always talk about, you walk into the labyrinth, you walk into yourself. At some point in time, if you want to know totality, you have to, in a sense, spiral back out. And my guess, this is the spiraling back out. And the spiraling back out takes you to a completely different level of understanding than the spiraling. And the spiraling in is the nice side. That's the pleasant. The way in is the pleasant stuff. The way out is the dark stuff. And you got to see both. Right? The spiral in my mind becomes a monstrous octopus expelling its ink. You're overcome by the darkness. You're overcome by the nothingness, by the black, by Osiris. I become giddy. How does it say on the other one? I put my hand to my mouth, biting my palm. So again, creating the Ouroboros in a sense, right? The Ouroboros. And they become dizzy, or confused. Instinctively, perhaps like Olier in his coffin. So why do they need to present here not only Jean Ollier, right, the head of the Society St Sulpice and the founder of the city of Montreal and all the things that were going on in the 1640s that we talked about. First of all, why does Ollier need to be presented? And perhaps like Ollier in his coffin. So it's not like Ollier when he's alive. It's Ollier in his coffin. Why do you want to be connected to the dead Ollier? Then it's damnation. I know the truth. Damnation, I know the truth. That's one of the most important lines in the whole Serpent Rouge. Right here. Damnation, I know the truth. You would think to know the truth would be glorious, like it was in this other one here where he talked about being giddy, right? I know the fabulous secret. I know the fabulous secret and marvelous. I understood an exclamation mark. Just this incredible excitement, right? The fabulous secret. Now all of a sudden, damnation. I know the truth. And a lot of of those out there who are honest about who have found the truth always say that it's not what they expected it to be, and it's seeing the non-reality of reality in yourself is not a pleasant experience. It's freeing, it's clarifying, but it's not something generally overly joyous. For some, of course, it is, but that's rare. It's often quite shocking and quite difficult. Damnation, I know the truth. Speaking of truth-seeking, by the way, my next video that I'm going to do in a few days is going to take a really I'm going to be really upset when I make it, actually. And it's going to be about our so-called spiritual leaders, our so-called spiritual knowledge gurus who claim to have the truth of everything and yet can't see through the biggest lie in existence right in front of their face right now. So I'm going to have a whole thing on that, of how much can you trust somebody who can't see a huge lie in front of their face yet claims to know the truth. Damnation, I know the truth. He has passed, or he is gone, but he is also in doing good, and did he of the flowery tomb. So we've got this idea of death, and he is past, he is gone. Who is the he that is gone? I could say it's somebody who's seen that the self is not what they thought it was, and the self has died in this moment. I don't know. How many have pillaged the house? The house would, of course, have to be the body. The house would have to be the the vehicle, the vessel that the soul or the spirit is using. How many have pillaged the house, leaving only embalmed corpses and a numbers of metal things they could not carry? The material. So this would be like almost like a revelation, a Cathar type revelation, or a Gnostic like revelation of the material world being all non-important, all an illusion, all a trap. And how many have pillaged the house? How many, by meaning how many ideas, beliefs, concepts, have ruined the physical vehicle in order to have kept the vehicle, have kept the spirit trapped in the vehicle, trapped in the belief structures, trapped in this reality rather than free. Again, that's just my interpretation of what I think is here. But like I said, this tells more about me than it does about you, right? I mean, more about me than it does about the writer of this. What strange mystery is concealed in the new Temple of Solomon, and that could be, who knows what that is referring to, built by the children of St. Vincent. Now, the children of St. Vincent is very good. We have St. Vincent, the original St. Vincent, of who, what was he in this? 1400s, 1500s, 1600s? Someone who created a very specific kind of missionary type service. But we know that Béranger Saunière was very connected with this idea of St. Vincent, and even, I believe, the 1891 mission where the children carried the cross around the grounds and then they put the upside down statue and the whatever. I think that was the children carrying it were supposedly on a mission of St. Vincent. So are we linking to, do they want to link to that 1891 event? Do they want to link to the pillar? Do they want to link to the concept? Do they want to link back to St. Vincent himself? Again, you can see the layers you can go into in this document. We just don't have time to go completely into it, but I need to present just overviews for you. You can go to your own level to that. We've got 3 left to go. Next is the serpent, the extra astrological sign that's probably taken out of our astrological knowledge. Cursing the profane in their ashes and those who follow their ways, returning from the darkness while making the gesture of horror at the abyss into which I had plunged. Here is the proof that I knew the secret of the seal of Solomon, and I had visited the secret places of his queen. Take heed, my friend. Do not add or take away 1 iota. Think and think again. The base lead of my words may contain the purest gold. Cursing the profane in their ashes and those who follow in their ways, returning from the abyss into which I had plunged while making the gesture of horror, here is the proof that I knew the secret of the seal of Solomon, that I have visited the secret places of this queen. To this, my friend, do not add or take away 1 iota. Think and think again. The base lead of my words may contain the purest gold. So we've got another important piece, because this is now the serpent. This is now the additional sign. So this is the one that, in a sense, wants you to get focused on. So we focus on Leo specifically because it's in the middle. It's the bridge. And we focus on this one because it's the one that doesn't exist in the regular current zodiac. And it links to what I was likely referring to in 10. I would say my views of 10, that the person's now had a completely different awakening experience than what was explained earlier in the document. Because here now, cursing the profane in their ashes. So those who have already passed, those who have already died, and those who follow their ways. So if you're following the ways of someone dead, that would have to be probably some sort of spiritual teacher, or someone claiming to have some sort of knowledge of life and death, because you don't follow just dead people, right? Dead people are dead people from the past. But those you follow would have to be the words of the supposed spiritual master, or those with knowledge. So cursing, so he's now cursed them, because what he has shown is seen that the presentation of the spiritual world is false. Returning from the darkness, so the nothingness, the blackness, while making the gesture of horror at the abyss into which I was plunged, right? And again, this idea of what I thought, the abyss meaning the nothingness, the totality, the completeness, the world of Osiris, the blackness, right? That which is beyond the material, the totally everythingness, right? Also, here is proof that I knew the secret seal of Solomon. Now, most might think this means the two pyramids placed one inside the other, right? The six-pointed star. Something tells me, though, this is something else. That is, it's saying that, but I think it's referring to something completely different. I don't know what it's actually referring to. That's just my feeling. My feeling is, if you think that's what is actually being referred to, you're being tricked. That's a little trick there. And I visited the secret places of this queen. So we know the queen is Isis and the Magdalene. The secret places, so probably now in this sense, now, because we haven't brought this up yet, we were talking about the labyrinth and the spiral quite often, but now the secret places of this queen. And we know that Isis, and specifically the Magdalene, is a place of what you might call understanding of sexual energy, and the understanding of the energy of the prime Kundalini force. So if you visited the secret places of the queen, that means you've also visited the secret places of the life force, of using the life force in these very specific, we'll call them ritual, but ceremonial ways. And that will link to the story of Sleeping Beauty. So the queen here, obviously, Sleeping Beauty is Isis, right? Is the Magdalene being awakened symbolically. Then it says, because remember, we were talking about number 11, the serpent. It's important. It's telling you it's important because it's added in. It's not original. Take heed, my friend. Do not add or take away one iota. So keep the document exactly as it is. Think and think again. Examine it. Go over it. I want you to contemplate it. And we get the alchemic ending. The base lead of my words may contain the purest gold. So that by not changing things, by taking what's there and working with it, it's telling you you may find gold, or a similar revelation has happened to the person who's writing the document. 12. Sagittarius. Returning again to the White Hall, the sky opening its floodgates, I seemed to sense close to me a presence, its feet in the water, like one who is going to receive the sign of baptism. I turn towards the east and see facing me, unwinding endlessly in its coils, the enormous red serpent, mentioned in the parchments, salty and bitter. The huge, unleashed beast becomes red with anger at the foot of the white mountain. Okay, so he's come out of the darkness, black, the Negretto. He's returning to the white hill, white, second stage, albedo. The sky opening its floodgates, water being the sign, one of the signs of albedo, the cleansing of albedo. I seem to sense close to me a presence, its feet in the water, like one who is going to receive the sign or the mark of baptism. So we're somehow already linking into this idea of John the Baptist and what the Baptist may represent, but again, we're also focusing still in the water, still in the albedo. I turn towards the east, so the rising sun, the Sphinx, the the start of a new cycle. And see facing me, unwinding endlessly in its coils, the enormous red serpent mentioned in the parchments. Okay, so we've got the Serpent Rouge, the red, and red, of course, being Rubetto, the end of the journey. The red serpent can also represent, of course, the Kundalini fire, the serpent that's coiled within us, or it can represent the serpent that is trying to hold us to the material world, the one that is trying to keep the delusion in place. It says salty and bitter. Right? Salty and bitter. These are two alchemic terms to symbolize very specific parts of the process in the symbolism of when you're using the idea of when you're actually burning these alchemic substances, and that there's certain tastes and smells that are required to know when it's time to change from one process to another process, to change the heat, take it off the heat, to add more heat. And it says the unleashed beast becomes red with anger at the foot of the red mountain. So unleashed beast, meaning it is wild, it is free. Unleashed is free, right? Becomes again red with anger. Okay, anger over what? Right? The other ones aren't giving me anger. The huge unleashed beast. I only read one. Returning again to the white hill, the sky opens its floodgates. Close to me, a presence, its feet in the water like one who has received the mark of baptism. I turn away again to the east. Facing me, I see unwinding endlessly by his coils the enormous red serpent mentioned in the documents. Rigid and bitter, the huge unleashed beast at the foot of the white mountain becomes scarlet with anger. Okay, so we've all got this thing. So it's becoming red with it's first of all mentioned in the parchments. So what parchments? What documents? Where are we finding a red serpent in documents? That's the first one we have to think about. Is it the Leviathan? Is the red serpent Leviathan from the New Testament? Salty and bitter, right? The huge unleashed beast, free, becomes red with anger at the foot of the white mountain. So the foot of the white mountain is, of course, the bottom of the mountain. The mountain is white. So is it Blanchefort? Is it representing Marie de Blanchefort? And red with anger. Why is the serpent red with anger? Is the serpent red generally, or is the serpent only red because it's angry? And what is it angry about? Is it angry about because it's now unleashed? Is it angry because it's not under control? Is it angry that it's free? Is it angry that the person writing the document is free of delusion? Is in this case the red serpent representing delusion in some case? Red with anger. So this is it's one I've had real trouble understanding. Red with anger. We end with 13, Capricorn. My emotion was great. Deliver me from the mire, I said, and I awoke immediately. I haven't told you, in fact, that this was a dream I had had this 17th of January, feast day of St Sulpice. Afterwards, my trouble persisting, I wanted, after reflection, to tell you a story by Perrault. Here then, dear reader, in the pages which follow, the result of a dream having soothed me into the words of the strange and unknown. Good that comes to him that does good. My emotions are elated. Deliver me out of the mire, I say, and immediately I awaken. I have omitted to tell you that it was a dream I had on the 17th of January, the day of St Sulpice. On reflection, my trouble persisting, I wish I had told you as a fairy tale by Perrault. Here then, dear reader, in the pages that follow, the result of a dream which nursed me from the strange to the unknown, to him who passes in doing good. Or another one, let he who has the understanding use it with wisdom. So first of all, it's telling you, oh, this was a dream I had, and now I'm sharing with you the dream. In a sense, it's taking you right back to the beginning. It started with one whole thing, as if it's presenting a document, presenting an idea. Now it's saying, oh, by the way, it's a dream. Maybe you should go back and read it again, because now that you know I'm presenting it as a dream. I haven't told you that it was a dream I'd had this 17th of January, feast day of St. Sulpice. So it's linking again to our famous January 17th, which is, yes, the Sulpice day, but it's also all of the dates that appear through the Rennes-le-Château story. January 17 is the day of Rennes-le-Château. So what is the dream? Is the dream the 13 stanzas of the document that is being presented, or is the dream the life the person had lived up to this point? That this whole experience awoken them from the dream of life, just as Sleeping Beauty had they've awoken, the same as Sleeping Beauty's been awoken, that somehow the red serpent, the unleashed beast, has become similar to the prince in the Rennes-le-Château, in the Sleeping Beauty story, and the symbolic kiss has awakened the individual, and now the individual sees. Because my emotion was great, deliver me from the mire, I said. My emotion was great, deliver me from the mire. They were out of the mud, they were out of the darkness, they were, right? And then tells you, oh, by the way, but I awoke and I awoke immediately. Right? That's the next thing it says. Immediately I woke up. Immediately I awakened. And then by telling you, oh, it was a dream that I had. So it's already fooling you into thinking, it's telling you, oh yes, I was sleeping and I had this dream and I'm writing the story of the dream I had when I was laying in bed and I woke up. As opposed to immediately I awaken, it can mean something. It has a completely different meaning. Immediately I awaken. And I've omitted to tell you it was a dream I had, i.e. my whole life. And then they're just linking it to the 17th of January, which is Awakening Day. And then he says, I wish I had told you as a fairy tale by Perrault. So it's already wanting to link back to to not just to Sleeping Beauty, but kind of saying, read the fairy tales. Read Sleeping Beauty, read Rapunzel, read Little Red Riding Hood, read Cinderella, read them all. Read Jack and the Beanstalk. There's wisdom in them. And then says the pages which follow. Right? So this is really important. The pages which follow are the results of a dream which nursed me from the bizarre to the unknown. The pages that follow. Well, this is the last one of the document. This is number 13. What pages that follow? So again, it's bizarre that it's like telling you to go back to the beginning, because really, then Capricorn should be number one. The Capricorn should really, in a sense, be number one in the story, because then the pages that follow is the rest of the document that we just read. But then that would end with Sagittarius, what we just read, with the serpent being red with anger at the foot of the White Mountain. Nothing is ended there. So it's very bizarre that it's this constant, there's no real start and there's no real end then to this document. The 13 pieces kind of exist semi-separately and semi-continuous, similar to the labyrinth. The labyrinth is always continuously being walked. You're walking in, you're walking out. It's kind of, the spiral is continuous. It's always going on. Time is always continuous. So it's also very strange when it wants you to ask you, in the pages which follow the result of a dream which nursed me from the strange to the unknown. From the strange to the unknown. Not from sickness to health. It's not nursing them from darkness to light. It's not nursing them from known to unknown to known. It's not nursing them from ignorance to truth. It's nursing them from the strange to the unknown. In a sense, saying the journey's not over. It's just now it's unknown. Strange or bizarre, great way to describe reality, or the view or the belief of reality, the belief of what we've been doing, but now it's unknown. And then it finishes by saying, right, let good come to those who do good, or let he who has understanding use it with wisdom. So it's asking for a way to use knowledge in a particular way going forward if you get it. That's the Serpent Rouge. Did we get anything from the 1 hour of listening to all that? I don't know. I really don't. I don't know how much more I know, but if you're going to dig into the Rennes-le-Château story, you have to dig into this. There are many that have suggested the Serpent Rouge relates directly to the book written by Henry Boudet, Cromlech's of Rennes-le-Bain, in the 1800s. Somehow the beast is found in the map of the book, that there seems to be like the same beast, Asmodeus statue that is in Rennes-le-Château Church is in one of the maps in the Boudette's book that was painted by or drawn by his brother, and that the book, the Cromwell's book, is answering a lot of the questions in the Serpent Rouge. But that's where we're at with that document, and we are one step away from finishing our examination of this topic. So I wanted to share where I'm at. Things out here on the farm where I'm living at are not going well. The farming part has gone great, actually. The crop has been really good. I've learned a ton. In most cases, the people here have been really generally good to work with, but there are so many problems with we'll call it the management of the land, management of the place, that I don't think I can stay here anymore. It's been so unbelievably stressful the last couple of months. It's really affected me, and it can't continue. I have to move on, and it's never good to have to move on again so quickly after doing one move. Moving is stressful in itself. Now in these insanity times, as more and more begin to lock down and shut down, going to new places is always difficult. So just in case my viewers are worldwide and you know a lot, if somebody has a connection to someone out here in Norway who's got farmland or has got some growing space and they think they'd be interested in maybe having me join them and be a part of their project and their process and their space, let me know. I'm beginning to look. And so if you know about there, I mean, there's hundreds, maybe thousands of farms in Norway that are abandoned, that are just, they're owned, but they're not used. They're just semi run down and no one does anything with them. They just sit there sort of as family, owned thing, but nobody ever uses it. So there's tons of these out there. It's just finding one would be decent for my needs and my wife's needs, and give us what we would require, and be a good deal. And there's lots of places to be taken over. It's just making the connection to get something done. The actual cost of just buying another farm right now, alone, the prices are just like everywhere in the world. They're skyrocketing. Right, it's part of what's going on now. Is make it impossible for people to own anything, to rent anything, make the cost so expensive that you will be dependent on the state just to live. And so it's kind of one of the last chances to get into something and own it and be done and have the area, and you're in. So if you know something, drop me a comment or send me an email, and I'm happy to check in with anyone for what you think might have something. And yeah. Thanks for listening. We're almost done with the Rennes-le-Château series. One more of those to go. Check out the Qi Gong video that I did on freevoice, the initial stages of Qi Gong work. I'll do this spiritual teacher thing when I get like the red serpent and I get some good red with anger, then I'll do that one. And yeah. Thanks again for the support. My revised book, by the way, the Exposing the Expositions now has a new book. New revisions, new additions, changed a lot of stuff in it, cleaned up a lot of the grammar and the spelling. So that's now up on Amazon, and it'll be up on the other places. So if you were still interested in picking up the Expositions book, that one is now cleaned up and hopefully a better and smoother read for you. With, again, I added a little bit, took some stuff out that I thought was slowing the reader down, added some things in that I think will be valuable to where we are right now. Thanks for your support. thanks for some of the really nice PayPal donations that have come in. There have been a couple that have been very surprising and very, very generous. And I just want people to know that without saying anyone by name, because I know people often don't like to be mentioned, but they're appreciated. And I just want to say thank you for that. And thank you to those who continue to support what is a very challenging channel at times. You know, I don't have a super happy message. I'm not promising a lot of stuff. I'm not just wanting to keep spinning the same old story and the same old detail and the same old presentation. So I know I lose some people along the way, but I'm really thankful for those of you who are still sticking around, still spending time with me, and yeah, I hope you keep finding some value in this, because as long as I feel that you out there are getting value from the time and the effort I put in, then I'll keep putting in the time and effort to share with you. So I'll leave it there. Thanks again for everything, and we'll see you with some new videos coming up very soon. Cheers.